PortlandWings.com. Coming up next, more of the Jason Beem Show right here on Sports Radio 95.5 The Game. Now traffic on the game, no major accidents to report right now. Check back 2, 3, 4 times a day. Don't miss a thing. I'm Bobby Bean and your play-by-play home for the Blazers, Ducks, Seahawks, and Timbers. Sports Radio 95.5 The Game.
Big names, big games. This is Sports Radio 95.5 The Game.
He's a normal guy.
Everybody just pretend to be normal, okay?
Loves a good burger.
So flavor-rich with lots of tasty goodness.
Laughs at funny jokes.
You're funny.
Enjoys the company of a woman.
What can I say? I like the ladies.
But most of all, he loves talking sports. He is Jason Beem, and he's ready to chat sports with you. This is the Jason Beem Show on Sports Radio 95.5 The Game.
Back here on 95.5 The Game and 95.5thegame.com. It's the Jason Beem Show. I'm so used to, in the habit of saying the winning ticket, the show we host during the horse racing season on the weekends, but the Jason Beem Show, I'm filling in here on 95.5 The Game today and tomorrow. Bernard Bokenny of KXL going to be taking you through the rest of the week from the 10 to the noon slot. Don't forget John Lund coming up at 12 noon. John Canzano, the Bald-Faced Truth, at 3 o'clock. But very pleased to go out to the phones right now and welcome in a baseball legend, 17-time All-Star, 3-time world champions, most hits in the history of the game, most at-bats, most games played. I could list the records for the next 5 minutes, but pleased to be joined by Pete Rose. Pete, how you doing this morning?
Hey, Jace, how you doing, buddy? I'm doing good.
I suppose it's afternoon. I know you're in Cincinnati right now.
Yeah.
Where are you spending most of your time these days?
Well, of course, I work at the Mirage in Las Vegas, and then I was at Caesars for 7 years, and now I'm at the Mirage in Mandalay Bay, and if I'm not there, I'm on the road doing appearances.
Absolutely. I know you love to make it back to Cincinnati. You were there over the weekend giving a speech, and you'd mentioned an interest in possibly wanting to coach again. Has that been something you've been wanting to do, obviously ever since the...
Well, actually, the question was if you were able to get back in baseball, what capacity would you like to get back in as? And, of course, I don't want to be a scout. I don't want to be a coach. I mean, I want to teach players the right way to play the game of baseball, and the best way to teach players and get their attention is to be a manager of a baseball team. That's it's far-fetched, but that's what I did the last 5-6 years of my career, and that's what I enjoyed doing. Developed a lot of young players, good players in Cincinnati, and like Larkin and O'Neill and Dibble and Charlton, and I actually saw 32 players get their first major league hit in a 4.5-5 year period of time when I was manager of the Cincinnati Reds. So, once you're a teacher, always you're a teacher, and you just you don't get fed up, but you get kind of disappointed when you watch baseball the way it's played today, and guys just aren't fundamentally sound because they haven't had enough instruction because they don't spend enough time in the minor leagues.
Yeah, being joined by Pete Rose. Pete, I had the good fortune to sit with you and Arnie, our mutual friend, back at Turfway Park and watch some baseball games while we were watching the horses, and it was so interesting to get to hear you talk about the game. I know you have, in recent years, been in touch with Alex Rodriguez a lot as kind of a mentor. Do you talk to a lot of guys in the game about hitting, about baseball in general?
Yeah, philosophies, most of these guys today, Joey Votto, Jay Bruce, I mean, most of these guys, they just need patted on the back and told how good they are, and it's just learn them how to grind it out for 162 games because everybody has slumps and everybody has good periods and bad periods, and most even the great players aren't always as confident as you think they might be. Although they make millions of dollars, they still need patted on the butt and told how good they are, and that's been my dealing with a lot of these players. You just have to bring them down to earth and make them realize how good they are, and go out there and bust your chops and play hard. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Being joined by Pete Rose, 24 seasons in the big leagues, 4,256 hits, and truly, in my opinion, and most people's opinion, I think a Hall of Fame player. And Pete, yesterday was the 70th anniversary of the start of Joe DiMaggio's hitting streak, and I know 1978 you had a 44-game hitting streak. I was talking to some folks about unbreakable records, and I really do think that 56-game hitting streak, a lot of people view that as an unbreakable record. Is that something you see somebody maybe taking a run at someday? I mean, how hard it is.
There's no question. I don't think it's unbreakable. I mean, I hit in 44, and there's a lot of guys that make just as good as contact as I did, and and can run faster than I could run. And there's a lot of watered-down pitching staffs today. I mean, you need luck, no question about it. It's a matter of getting a hit in every game for about a month and 3/4 is all it is. I mean, if I could do 44, someone else could do 50, and if you get to 50, you get a little bit lucky, you could do 56. I don't think it's a record that won't ever be challenged. I really think it will be. It's going to take a hell of a player to do it, but 511 wins by Cy Young would never be challenged, or Nolan Ryan's 45-17 strikeouts would never be challenged. But as far as 44 games in a row in the National League and 56 in the American League, I think it's possible. I really do.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Being joined by Pete Rose. And Pete, who are some of the guys in baseball right now that you really love to watch play? I know you had that famous, Charlie Hustle kind of mentality on the baseball field. Do you see a lot of guys that play like you, or is there anybody that reminds you of you that's playing the game right now?
A lot of players. I mean, there's a lot of players that really bust their chops out there, but it seems like the way the world's run today with the media, that they don't want to hear about that. They'd rather talk about controversial things, and that's the way the press is today. But I think there's more players that play hard than don't play hard. And I appreciate the kind things you're saying about me, but how did I play? I'll tell you how I played. I played the right way. I played the way everybody should play the game. Go out there, play 2.5 hours, play as hard as you possibly can, give the people their money's worth, and they'll want to come back the next night. That's the way you have to play the game. And if you want to call me Charlie Hustle, go ahead and call me Charlie Hustle, but I didn't do anything except play the game the way you're supposed to play it.
Absolutely. Pete Rose, our guest. And Pete, I know from being in Cincinnati with you for a couple years there, when you would come back to visit, people in that town have a great affection for you for all that you did in that town as a baseball player and as just a citizen of Cincinnati. I know you're born and raised there. What does that town mean to you? And I know you like to go back there a lot. How much do you enjoy Cincinnati?
Well, Cincinnati's my hometown. I was born in Cincinnati, and we in Cincinnati think we're the baseball capital of the world. Of course, baseball started here in 1869. First night game was played in 1935. And, we think it's the baseball capital of the world. There may be markets that get more publicity, like New York or Philadelphia or Boston or L.A., places like that. But the real baseball fans are right here in Cincinnati. And I was raised on that, and I raised my kids on that, and we'll raise their kids on that. That's just the way it is. We feel Cincinnati is the baseball capital of the world.
Absolutely. I remember my first year back there, 2006, opening day. I mean, they shut down a lot of the schools back there. They have the parade, the whole 9 yards. I was floored. I mean, compared to Seattle, where I grew up, it's not even close in terms of, the atmosphere of baseball back in Cincinnati.
Well, when I was a kid, and even when I was a player, Cincinnati always had the first game on Monday. No one else was allowed to play except until Tuesday because of the birthplace of baseball. And now that tradition is kind of out the window. We're not even the first game anymore because there used to be ESPN games on Sunday nights. And this year, for instance, opening day was a Thursday. I never heard of opening day being on a Thursday and having Friday off. But the history of baseball was Cincinnati plays its first game and everybody else plays on Tuesday. But that tradition's gone.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems we've lost a lot of tradition here in our society these days. Pete Rose, our guest. Pete, we were talking earlier in the show about Harmon Killebrew, talking about how he is ending his treatment for esophageal cancer. Certainly, he played in a lot of the same time that you did. Did you get a chance to play against Harmon, and what kind of are your memories of him?
Well, Harmon was a tremendous home run hitter, and the only time I played against him was in All-Star games. I never played against Minnesota in any World Series, but probably of the 17 All-Star games, Harmon was probably on the other team at least half of those times, if not more. And I remember my first All-Star game was in Minneapolis, and Harmon was at that game at 65, and my last game was in Minneapolis in 85. So Harmon was a great home run hitter and a tremendous asset to the game of baseball, and I know he's really struggling right now. He's in hospice, which is the kind of word you don't want to associate with anybody that you like or know or that's on this earth, and just give our prayers out to Harmon and his family.
Absolutely. Pete Rose, our guest. Pete, I don't know if you had a chance to go to any of the Cardinals-Reds game this weekend, but
I went yesterday. I went last night.
Yeah, the Reds playing fantastic baseball right now. I think that's one of the best rivalries, not just in baseball, but in sports. I know in Cincinnati especially, they really, really love when the Cardinals come to town. What was that rivalry like when you were a player? I know Bob Gibson, some of the greats they had back then.
We had a rivalry when I played with the Dodgers because we were both in the Western Division, and I think that's why the St. Louis-Cincinnati rivalry is now, because they're both in the Central Division, and to be honest with you, they're the only halfway decent teams in that division. I mean, I don't think Pittsburgh's a decent team. Houston's not a decent team. The Cubs aren't a decent team. Milwaukee is just struggled this year. So you have two teams left, Cincinnati and St. Louis, and there's no question mine after watching St. Louis the last couple of days, and of course I'm going to see the Cubs tonight, that the St. Louis can't beat the Reds in that division. They got a bad defense. Wainwright's out. Their bullpen suspect, and they don't have a lot of hitters once you get by Holiday and Pulo. So it's going to be interesting to see how far the Reds go this year.
Yeah, the Reds got some great young pitching they've acquired over the last couple of years, through their system. Johnny Cueto, obviously, one of their top guys down there. Who on the Reds do you really like to watch right now?
Well, you got to like Votto. You got to like Bruce. You got to like Stubbs. You got to like Phillips. Roland's a crafty veteran that stabilizes the whole team, and the catchers are good young catchers on a home run streak right now, and they got some good players. And Johnny Gomes is off to a slow start, but he'll come around. So. If you're in first place, you don't worry about a guy that's off to a slow start, because you only worry about that is if a team's struggling. But if a team's in first place, just give the guy that much more time to get his act in high gear.
Yeah, baseball great Pete Rose, our guest on the show here, the Jason Beem Show on 95.5 The Game. Pete, I got to know you via a good friend of ours, Arnie Metz, who works at Riverdowns Racetrack, where I did. I know you're an avid horse racing fan. How did you get into racing and start to enjoy it? I know it's a passion of yours to watch horse racing.
Well, I used to go to the races with my father when I was a kid, along with Don Zimmer and his dad. And this time of year is great to be a horse racing fan, because you just had the Derby last Saturday, and you got the Preakness coming up on the 21st, and then the Belmont 3 weeks later after that. So I enjoy the Triple Crown racing, and Arnie and I used to go to Turfway. It used to be called Vatonia. It's Turfway now, and of course River Downs. When I played, I used to go up there during the daytime sometimes, and it's a competitive sport, and I owned a couple horses, so I got a lot of respect for a lot of people in the racing industry.
Yeah, horse racing's a lot of fun. It was always fun getting to hang out with you and Arnie at Turfway. Arnie's a character in his own right. A lot of folks won't know who we're talking about, but certainly a fantastic guy. Pete Rose, our guest on the show, and Pete, so glad you were able to make some time for us. And where can folks catch you in Las Vegas again? The Mirage, is that where you're at nowadays?
Yeah, I'm at the Mirage right there past BB King's, which is a restaurant, on the way to the pool or on the way to the dolphin exhibit or on the way to the tiger exhibit. You got to walk by me to go to those three places.
Sounds good. Well, Pete, one more question before I get you to go. We were talking about, I had Mel Stottlemyre on the show earlier. We were talking about great pitchers. Who was the pitcher that you most liked to compete against when you were playing? Who was the guy that really got you excited to hit against?
A lot of them, because I think you have ones you wouldn't want to get excited about, like Sandy Koufax or Don Drysdale or Juan Marichal or Bob Gibson, or Warren Spahn. Those are all great pitchers. But you can talk about guys you don't want to face, as opposed to guys that you weren't worried about facing. But no one really scared me. It's not like that in the world of baseball. But you're more comfortable off of some guys than you are other guys. But the guy giving me the most trouble was Koufax.
Sounds good. Well, Pete, thank you very much for making time for us, and have a great rest of your trip in Cincinnati. And folks, hopefully can catch you in Vegas down at the Mirage.
Well, Jace, I got one thing to tell you.
You got it.
The race is on.
I appreciate it. Well, Pete Rose joining us from Cincinnati, one of the great baseball players of all time, and really excited to get Pete on the show. Pete, and the race is on is how I say the start of a horse race. So I'm flattered that Pete even remembers that. It's been a couple of years now, but in fact, I'm going to share a great Pete Rose gambling story and horse story here after the break. John Strong joining us at the bottom of the hour at 11:30. Excited to talk Timbers with John, and we'll continue here on a Monday. It's the Jason Beem Show here on 95.5 The Game.
Calling all students. Become a 95.5 The Game intern and gain college credit.